next performer, I asked him last week, Roger, would you do this thing? And I didn't hear.
No!
And then I didn't hear from him. And then, like 6 days later, he sends me a text message. All right, that was it. So Roger he and Cornel. Let me just say, these two are so plunged into activism. You don't see this. This is like maybe Paul Robeson and Harry Belafonte were plunged into their activism the same way these two gentlemen are. But I'd like to, Roger Waters. What can I tell you? Roger Waters, give a round of applause. You want the microphone?
This won't, yeah. This won't take long.
Oh, yes, it will. Here. You got your mic?
I need some more cheap white wine, please.
Hey, you don't know what it is, cheap. Can I get some more of that ripple?
Thank you, Randy.
Oh, over there.
Well, they're only about 8 feet
Remember
away.
Spartacus, the guy who throws the spear?
If you pointed it right over there, because I'm going to sing in a minute.
All right.
Believe it or not.
You want to use it here, then I'll bring it over there. I'm the stage.
All right. Okay. Just up a bit.
1, 2, 1, 2. Katie, that was fabulous, darling.
What?
Yeah. Everybody, and Lee, and all the rest, and blah, blah, and blah.
Cornel, we're going to shout out.
Okay, what?
That's good. Stand to be a little bit.
Are you a heckler?
I am.
Because normally I don't work with chickens. Yeah. Well, to you too, sir. What's he saying to me? Has anybody got any idea? Why? Listen, I'm a trained rock and roll star. That's why I was around microphones while you were still in short trousers. What, you mean back here? Why? Alright. Listen, this is fucking terrifying. Alright, I'm used to sort of at least 15,000 people in a band and a PA and all that crap. And behind all of that, it's much easier to operate. My admiration for these stand-up guys who stand in clubs and do what they do is boundless, I have to tell you. But I had decided what I was going to do here before I arrived, and part of that is that I'm going to sing a song and play the piano at the same time. So, thank you, Randy. Something that I'm bound to admit I've never ever done in my life in public before. So this is the first. But before I do that, I've got another bit of paper here, and it says Roger Waters, 3rd of January 2021. So the song that I'm going to sing, I wrote during COVID. And it's rather long, so you may have to bear with me. I may have to stop for, a sip of wine or a sip of water in the middle of it. Or I might just stop anyway if I fumble stuff, but don't worry about that. Because it's the content of the song which is important rather than my performance of it. This is what I wrote in January this year. And it is pertinent to the scene. It's because I pop.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Oh, don't fluff at me. Okay, I'll stand back there. And I'll try not to pop. Okay. I have not forgotten Julian Assange. His incarceration is a monstrous outrage. Since the summer of 1789 in Paris, we have remained steadfast in rejecting the divine right of kings. Today we resist the hugely rich and morally corrupt, powerfully deadly, child-killing, planet-destroying behemoth that is the United States of America and its acolytes in Whitehall. We stand outside these chambers. I must have written this before one of the court cases, I guess. Faced with this dilemma, either the pen is mightier than the sword, or it isn't. If it isn't, to quote George Burns, say goodnight, Gracie. That was it. Love and reason threw in the towel. We are all dead. But if the pen is mightier than the sword, our friend Julian Assange will be free, if not today, then tomorrow, and we will live to love and fight another day.
Point this vaguely in my direction.
I'll try not to pop, Chicken Man. Look, it's so hard to find good stuff. There we are. Okay. So as I said, this is a song that I wrote during COVID, and it sort of speaks for itself. And I'm going to adjust this, and then I'm going to try and ignore everything and see if I can stumble my way through it. The low F doesn't work, so we'll forget about that. Does everybody in the bar feel pain? Yeah, sure they do. Is everybody in the bar a little maimed? Yeah, both me and you. We traded in the family farm for snake oil. Bought into the carpet beggar's lies. Hang on. Now we're hanging on this cross. These feelings of lust. Just watching the Liberty boat sail on by. And if I cut you, will you bleed for me? If I bind your wounds, will you cry? And if I give you my hand, will you stand by me? Stand by me here till I die. The man put out his hand to help me. They've been printed at the company store. And I looked into his eyes. It would come as no surprise. I can't make these payments anymore. Does everybody in the bar feel shame? Lord knows I do. Does everybody in the bar feel pretty much the same? Kind of wore out by this crazy fucking zoo. The smell of napalm with the cornflakes, the chief of killing everything that breathes, imposing sanctions on the lady down the street. Till she takes the hint and packs her bags and leaves. Come on in here, sister, and sit us down. You are most welcome in the bar. This is the bar, by the way. You're in the fucking bar. The thing is that the bar is a refuge for those of us who care about other human beings and who live our lives with empathy. And the lady who I'm singing about, i.e. the one we imposed the sanctions on until she takes the hint and leaves, finally appears in the bar. Anyway, sorry. Come on in here, sister, and sit a spell. You are most welcome in the bar. We may seem few, but we are many. Have you been traveling far? The girl who put you in here was Lakota. From Standing Rock, where they make their stand. So from Fort Yates, North Dakota, here's a message for the man. Would you kindly get the fuck off our land? Hey, boy, man, I have a question. One of many victims, tell me why. A frail, fat, fucking landlord has been chosen to decide who should live and who should die. Sorry, I lost my place. Here we go. Sweetheart, there's a reason you come in here. I know I was just putting on my dancing shoes. With the right set of moves, we could turn this ship around. Together we can write tomorrow's news. You are my sad-eyed lady. Come lay across my big breast bed. Yes, it's a reference to Bo. Maybe it is we who have been chosen, you and me, to point out this don't make no fucking sense. How many cannonballs must fly above? How long and winding is the road? How many children train? How many children train? Not sure what the code is. How many mothers' sleeves? Saying, look, Ma, the man ain't got no fucking clothes. You can help them build a bomb at Raytheon. Sell it on in Kalamazoo. Some crazy motherfucker's bound to drop it on a busload of kids going to school. You can hold up your hands in denial. Justify the choices in your head. Just an innocent cop, just doing your job. But those little Yemeni kids will still be dead. Do I sound a tad holier than thou? Well, sir, maybe I am. I admit it came easy to me to resist this fucking system. Uneducated as I am. I eschewed the Bible for Ken Kesey cross the line. Yeah. Just following orders don't come easy to me. I guess it just ain't where I'm at. So when I'm drinking my coffee in the morning, sorry, I'm there, and I read about all this Yemeni shit. I feel so fucking bad for that grieving father picking through the bus that's just been hit. So on Monday, when you're walking through the factory gates, and on Friday when you're picking up your chick, you'll be sitting on the curbside like the bicycle thief. But with no kid to put his arms round daddy's neck. I'm nearly there. Before I was born, my brother used to sit on daddy's lap when he was home on leave. He'd smoke a cigarette, and sometimes just he'd blow smoke rings up my big brother's sleeve. More fire, daddy, my big brother would shout. At least that's how the story has survived. I was mercifully spared the memories that they shared. I was only 5 months old when Daddy died. Gonna call up a friend in Australia. And order in some bush tucker snacks. And dance here with you to the didgeridoo. And listen. And listen while you sing me all the maps. Is that a foghorn in the distance? Oh, we heading for the rocks. Come sit here by the fireside and hold me in your arms. And tell me, how was life before the cops? stop now, but thank you so much for coming to Randy Sing. And thank you, Randy, for having this thing tonight. And we will feature you one of these days. And we will keep writing our songs and raising our voices, because this is where the choir lives. It's here in the fucking bar. And it's so great that you're all here and that we're all making a little bit of noise tonight.
All right, we have another comedian, then we have... You want to go on? We have one more.
Yeah.
I want to hear it.
Yeah.
The comedian.
No.
Cornel's fun.
Well, I got it. You know, sorry, Ted. Ted, you get to follow Cornel West. Would you please welcome my friend?
You got to promise me you're going to stay for Brother Ted. You going to stay for Brother Ted? I'm not going to take too much time, but I think we need to take in the artistry of our dear brother Roger Waters. Thank you. It was the blues at the deepest level. The blues ain't nothing but a musical narrative of a catastrophe lyrically expressed. It was soulful, and soul ain't nothing but the sharing of a soothing sweetness against the backdrop of a grim catastrophe. And when we look at our brother, just take a look at our brother right here, Brother Julie. Look at his eyes. Look at that determination. Look at that fire inside of his soul. That's what we heard in this music. Thank you, Brother Roger. Artistic giant in our midst. Spiritual titan who's still on fire. Pink Floyd will go down as one of the greatest visionary and courageous artistic enactments of truth and goodness and beauty of the 20th century. Is that true, y'all? Yeah. Is that true, y'all? That's what we're talking about. Right. I want to begin by acknowledging Brother Randy. I love this brother. We've been to jail so many times, it becomes a joke in and of itself.
Like Willie Sutton.
Like Willie Sutton. And we go in there and we sing what? We sing Motown. Sometimes in tune, sometimes out of tune. That's all right. It's coming from our soul with Brother Carl Dixon, a host of others. And then they have the Kunstler's in the house. Y'all know Kunstler's are royalty in the history of America. We'll never forget Brother William and Margaret and Emily and the others. Brother Lee was so wonderful. Oh, Sister Katie was so magnificent. Brother Tafar was wonderful. And of course, Sister Margaret Kimberly from Black Agenda Report. Our dear Brother Glenn Ford, let us never, ever forget Brother Glenn Ford, one of the towering figures, if not the most important revolutionary journalist and intellectual of his generation. And what they were able to do is create a cacophony of voices. See, I come from a people, the black people, that lifts every voice is our anthem. You can't be a blues man without lifting your voice. You can't be a jazz woman without lifting your voice. You can't be an echo, just an extension of the echo chamber. You got to find your voice. And what this gathering is all about, what makes this gathering so priceless and so precious, is not just we never heard Brother Roger play the piano in public in the history of the world. That's already historical right there. But the fact that he was able to do it with a sense of humility such that his voice bounced off against the voices of all of us, because we here to keep the focus on truth, and the condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak on goodness, which means we keep track of the evil, of imperial evils, be it AFRICOM in Africa, be it drones dropped on innocent brothers and sisters in Yemen, in Somalia, in Pakistan, and Afghanistan, be it predatory capitalism and the crimes on Wall Street of market manipulation and insider trading and fraudulent activities and predatory lending, be it white supremacy and all of its viciousness on every level of male supremacy, homophobia, transphobia. These are not just abstractions. These are lived experiences of people who are what? Resisting, fighting radically against the grain. And then to situate it in the bars was so deep. Because I'm sure Brother Roger knows that the greatest play ever written, which is The Indictment of American Empire, was written by an Irish genius named Eugene O'Neill. Right around the corner, Harry Hope Saloon, the Iceman cometh. The Iceman cometh. Hickey, a salesman, not in the genius of Arthur Miller, the death of a salesman that sells products. But Hickey was a seller of dreams. And those dreams were lies, and those lies revealed crimes. That's what WikiLeaks about. That's what Brother Julian is about. The lies that reveal crimes. And no regime, no status quo, no empire, no predatory capitalist regime wants to hear the lies about itself exposed in every corner of the globe. That's why he's in prison. That's why he's a political prisoner, Sister Margaret. Because he's a truth teller. He's a truth teller. You see, I come from a people of black people who've been chronically hated for 400 years, but keep dishing out love warriors every generation, be it the love supreme of John Coltrane, or be it love and the need of love of Stevie Wonder, or be it what's going on with Marvin Gaye or Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X. Those are love warriors at the deepest level, because what? They simply wanted to bear witness to the truth and allow the suffering to speak. If they were criminalized, assassinated, incarcerated, marginalized, debased, misconstrued, and misunderstood, and yet in the end, we know they stood tall. That's why we're here in this place, to stand tall for our brother Julian Assange. Oh yeah. There's another great bar in the history of American literature. It's called The Green Hat, written by a genius in her 20s from the south side of Chicago named Lorraine Hansberry, and A Raisin in the Sun. And don't get it twisted. It was not some tale about upward social mobility, black folk trying to gain access to some vanilla suburb. No, it started with the death of old man Claude. It started with the death of their boy and what they gonna do with the money given that he's died. And Walter says, I can only gain access to strength when I go to the Green Hat and have that brother blowing that saxophone in such a way that I don't lose sight of what it is to be part of a great people who resisted slavery and Jim Crow and Jane Crow and Jim Crow Jr. and Jane Crow Jr. today, and still holding on in a critique not just of discrimination, that's deodorized textbook analysis of America. We keep it funky like Bootsy Collins. We keep it funky like James Brown and Aretha Franklin. And the funk says that discrimination is parasitic on a predatory capitalist project of a settler colonial experiment that has militarism all around the world and attempts to reshape the whole globe in its interest and in its image, and it leads towards the blowing up of the planet. That's what we're talking about. And that's why when you hear the music of Brother Roger and the connection at the deep human level of artistic expression, spiritual fortitude, moral courage, and a sense of humor, which is a sense of humanity, which allows us to enact a solidarity That's what's happening tonight. We thank you, Brother Randy, for all of your vision and your work. Let us remain